In this video, we will discuss comparing string objects or text in Java. Before we start to compare strings, we need to have some basic understanding of what a string is in Java. It's not the same as the other primitive data types. A string is created from the string class. Now, for every piece of string or text that we create, we are creating an object of the string class. We will look at classes and objects in more depth later on. For now, consider the following example. String name1 equals Peter. String name2 equals Peter as well. You can see the spelling for the two is exactly the same. So what happens in memory when we create these two strings or these two objects of text? Firstly, the string object with the text Peter will be created in memory. Then the name1 variable will be created and can store only the memory location of an object of type string or text. In this case, it will store the memory location of the text Peter, not the text itself. This is where the catch comes in comparing strings. Let us look at another example. Firstly, the string object with the text Peter will be created in memory. Then the name2 variable will be created and can store only the memory location of an object of type string or text. In this case, it will store the memory location of the text Peter. Again, not the text itself. In most cases, you cannot use relational operators to compare string objects. These string variables contain the address of the object they represent and not the object itself. If I have the following if statement, if name1 equals name2, but note the double equal sign there, I'm essentially testing whether the memory locations of the two objects or the two text parts are the same. I'm not testing the values itself. Thus, I'm not testing whether Peter and Peter are the same. This if statement will then evaluate to false. So how then do we compare strings? Because strings are objects, we have some useful methods that we can use to compare strings. The first method is the equals method. Now look at the following example. If name1 dot equals name2 in brackets. Here we use the equals method on the string called name1, and we compare name1 with name2. In this case, the equals method compares every single character of the text in name1 with the text in name2. If every single character is the same, the equals method will return true. In this case, the if statement will return true. So this is one way of comparing strings. The other way of comparing strings is to use the compare_to method. This method returns an integer value that can be used as follows. If the value is 0, name1 will be equal to name2. If the value is a negative value, smaller than 0, then name1 will be first in the alphabet and name2 will be second in the alphabet. Or in short, name1 will be smaller than name2. If the value is positive, more than 0, name2 will be the first in the alphabet and name2 will be second. Or, in short, name1 will be more than name2. So let's see this working in coding. Right, back in IntelliJ, we're going to create two variables. I'm going to call one of the variables name1, and will be of type string because we are looking into comparing string values. So what I'm going to do here is to ask the user to enter the value for me. So I'm going to say joptionpane.show an input dialog for me, and we're going to say please enter name1, and then let the user enter name1. Then the same for name2, we're going to ask the user joptionpane.show input dialog, and we're going to ask the user please enter name2. Right, so now we have name1 and name2, and let's see how we can compare these two strings now. So I'm going to say if name1 is the same as name2 with a double equal sign. Now remember from the explanations now that we should not compare strings like this, but let me just show you the output here. So we will have name1 is equal to name2 if they are the same. And then we'll have an else part there that will basically say, well, the two are not the same. So we just say not the same And let's see how this one runs. Okay, let me just check the output at the bottom after this. So we're going to say, please enter name 1, and I'm going to type Peter there. So look at the spelling of Peter there, capital P, all the rest lowercase, it's Peter, and I'm going to type Peter again. So it's exactly the same name that I'm typing. And if I say OK there, and I open up here at the bottom, you will see it says it's not the same, because essentially we're comparing now two different memory locations for the first name and the second name that was entered. So it actually doesn't matter which names I type there. Let me just try Peter and Paul, which is in any case not the same, but it will say it's not the same. It's not testing the text itself, it's testing the memory location. So how should we compare then two strings? So we need to use the equals method, and the equals method accepts one of or some type of string object there. So we're saying if name 1 equals name 2, then print out it's equal. Otherwise, they're not the same. So let's see if we print out this one now. So the name there, let's type Peter again, and the same name Peter again. And if we compare them now, you can see that it says name 1 is equal to name 2. And you can see how long it takes for my output to actually stop and to give me the end of my application there. So remember, when using JOptionPane, just use system.exit, pass in the 0 there to exit a bit faster there. So if I now type let's say another name there, Peter and Paul, it will say it's not the same. But if they are the same, Peter and Peter, it will give me name 1 is equal to name 2. Okay, so that's basically how we test for, or how we compare strings, by using either the equals method or the compare to method. So now the compare to method, quickly, instead of using equals there, I can say compare to. So name 1 compared to name 2 equals 0. That's the one that gives us an integer value. So I'm testing if name 1 compared to name 2 is equal to 0. It means that they are the same, they're equal. So this statement is essentially the same as using the equals method. So if I run this again, this will check whether they are the same. So let's say Peter again, and Peter, and it will also print out the names are the same. Now, instead of using an else here, let us use some other if statements. So I'm going to say if name1 dot compare to name 2 again, but in this case not equals 0, but say less than 0. So what I'm essentially testing here is testing whether name 1 is first in the alphabet and then name 2. So if it is like this, we will say name 1 is first and name 2 is second. And then we can have another if statement there that tests for the other way around. So we're going to say if name1 dot compare to name 2, if we compare the two and the value is greater than 0, then it means name 2 is first in the alphabet and then name 1. So then we will print out name 2 is first and name 1 is second. Okay, so let's just quickly test this one out. So if we run it now, right, so let's take Peter and Peter again. That will be the first if statement. So it will say name 1 is equal to name 2. Right, let's run it again. Let's try the second if statement. Let's just use Adam and Eve there. So Adam obviously comes first in the alphabet and then Eve. So it will say name 1, which was Adam, is first and Eve is second. Name 2 is second. So let's try the last one there. So let's make this one now Eve and Adam, and obviously Adam must come first, which is name 2. So it will say name 2 is first and name 1 is second. And that is how we compare strings in Java. So it's either the equals method, or you can use the compare to method with the 3 different values. If you want to check if something is the same, the equals method is the easiest one to use, but you can also use the compare to method. But if you want to check or sort data, for instance, where you want to get a specific value before another one, then you can use the less than or the greater than with the compare to method. Now, just one comment before we stop this video. If I take away these now and I replace them with, let's say, Peter there, and there also Peter. Let's run this quickly now. So if I run this now, you will see it says that name1 is equal to name2. Okay, so which is 100% correct. But what if I now use just the double equal sign and say name2 there? Let me just delete these now so we don't use them at all. All right, we remove them. So we only have this if statement. You can see there's string name1 equals Peter, string name2 is Peter. Both of them are exactly the same. Using the double equal sign should actually not print out anything. So let's put the else there again. And we're going to say system out print 9 not the same. And maybe we can just say the same. Now let's run this quickly. And you can see that it says the same. Whereas we just said these two should not actually work with the double equal sign. Because if I take away this Peter now and I use the J option pane again, let's try that again, it will say that they are not the same, even if we type in the two names. So let's type that again. I'm going to say Peter again, and again Peter, exactly the same spelling, but it will tell me they are not the same. And that's the thing, or the problem we have here now. Okay, so if I do not use the J option pane or input from the user, but I use a string literal like this by just hard coding the text, just do the same for Peter there. Okay, just comment out the rest. Right, so now we've got two string literals, hard coded strings there. If I run them now, you can see that it will say they are exactly the same. So that is the strange thing that happens here, that if you get input from the user, you can't check for strings using the double equal sign. But if it's hard-coded text, it will work. So why is that? So strings constructed with string literals like we're doing now with Peter and Peter, they are part of the string constant pool. And the same string literal will always be the same memory address from the pool, which means that if you're using string literals and they've got the exact same spelling, they are also at the exact same location. And that's why it works. So just remember this one. We do not use hard-coded strings that much at all. So normally just use the normal equals method or the compare to method to compare two strings, because normally we get input from the user and then save it into a variable. And when you do it that way, the double equal sign will not work. So please use the equal sign, the equals method or the compare to method in order to compare strings. That's it for this video.